Welcome to Soul Conversations with Sandee. Yep, it's a soul conversations. It's talk. It's having you know what talk is? Talk is questions and answers. That's all talk is. People having questions, people getting answers, and the back and forth. And then all of a sudden you're in a conversation. Whether it's soul related or spiritual related or just out in the world related, we're here to talk to each other. But my main thing is I want to know how people are utilizing their particular spiritual gifts, talents, and skills, and how they use it in their everyday life and how they bring it to their community. That's what this talk show is about. So let me introduce to you in this introduction right now. I'm new to the whole streaming platform of YouTube Live. I'm new to the talk show. So flow with me, all right? If you got suggestions, I'm open. So we're going to do the introduction now. This is Kimmyra pa- pa- Pabon, and she is with Strive for You. Now she's going to correct me because all of today and yesterday, I believe I was pronouncing her name right, and today I think I did it wrong. So here she is.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. In our Eastern, I'm here in Virginia. So it is 6:02 here. Salutations to everyone again. My name is Kimmyra. Everyone calls me Kim or Kimmy, if you know me personally. But for this purpose, we'll stick with Kimmyra because it is my birthright. All right, and I represent Stride. Stride is a sisterhood that I created 2 years ago. I just literally woke up one day and I was looking for something to hold on to, something more than a walk of faith, something that I could build a community with people to network, specifically, of course, the sisters. I am non-biased, so of course I love my brothers too. And STRIDE stands for Sacrificing to Return Indefinite Excellence.
Oh, nice, nice. So here we are. How did you in I know the exclamation explanation of how. Let me take a step back. The divine wants me to ask this question differently. Have you ever had a spiritual or a soul awakening? Let's start there. And then I believe the story might move forward into your spiritual gifts, your spiritual talents, your how you started to make that Wizard of Oz yellow brick road leap into it. Can we
It's
start
funny,
with that?
yes, it's so funny that you asked me that because, of course, we've been trying to connect for some time. And for those of you that don't know, the home of Stride is on Instagram. So that's my platform base. And right now it's just vlogging. And the spiritual awakening came from me kind of like being stuck in life. Um, by nature, I do identify more with Christianity. So being church based, following the Bible and things, and just being very stubborn behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you fight things that are really meant for you, or when you have a higher calling on your life, the pull in any direction is very, very strong. And no matter what way I went, um, I always got pulled back in the middle to basically refigure it out. And that's the long and short of it. So I wasn't blessed with my birth mom or my birth father.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my brothers and sisters, I have been spread all over in foster care and things of that nature. So I grew up as like a loner, you know what I mean? Just trying to figure it out, pieces from, everywhere, everyone, and not really being able to identify myself. So I originally started Stride as Awake to Your Journey. And I really feel like that was the great divine's way of me waking to my journey to identify, to sacrifice, to return indefinite excellence.
Right.
So, oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, no, no. I'm just like, if you hear me saying something, it's me confirming it to me, within me, to the divine. So,
So my goal is to, of course, build self-awareness for those people who may feel lonely in the world, who feel like they have no one to talk to, who identify with, self-crisis and just trying to figure out which way to turn and, believing in oneself. Really having that sacrifice again to return in definite excellence because we all have to sacrifice something to return. And it's not about oneself, it's about being able to sacrifice yourself to be able to give out and recycle the cycle of empowerment. And that's the biggest thing for me. I want to ingest, digest, and I want to be able to put back out, you know?
right.
So,
Oh, okay. So with that you have said is, so basically it doesn't have to, it can be a spiritual movement for you because it's not necessarily, even though somehow the Christianity base of of your higher being, right?
hmm
It, when you're serving others, when you
hmm
have this platform to serve, it's not based on any type of religion. It's
yeah,
based on a person's need for the growth of, number one, to internally find out who they are authentically to themselves in their story, make help them become aware that they do have a story, and
hmm
then how to take that story from inside and make
hmm
it their make it their vision of their life being lived on the
yes,
outside. Yes.
hmm yes.
Okay.
So
when
being
you
able, hmm
when you found this out for yourself, the creation of it or the building of it, was it hmm, was it, some people say it's the grind, and it's mainly, for me, that means they're doing it from the outside trying to bring it in. For
hmm
you, the stepping stones, the the blood, sweat, and tears of it was you from the inside creating these steps for yourself first, and then then applying them to yourself,
hmm
seeing what the kind of, being the teacher, the student, and doing the workshop for yourself, and then going, got it,
hmm
right, and then
it's
kind of regurgitating it to other people, kind of like, did I get that correct?
exactly. And it's funny because when I was going to say regurgitate after I said ingest and digest and I was going to go ahead with the regurgitation, it actually locked in my my throat. So that's so funny that you pulled that back out that way. But yes, that's basically what it is. I just want the identity of oneself to be serious for someone, being able to search and be able to understand life through experiences. A lot of people identify through education, a lot of people identify through talents and gifts of that nature. And I have a little bit of all that. I can sing, I can write poetry, I can read, um, I can be empathic, I can hold a good conversation. But all of that has to lock in somewhere. You know what I mean? I don't sing out loud. I have stage fright. But when I get comfortable enough, you never know that that gift could be used to encourage someone else. Whether I'm singing praise and worship or I'm just going live and just, who knows, a song might come about. So just being able, like I said, to identify what's in you to give to others.
Right, right. So as you're learning more about yourself, and you're seeing what gifts that you have, even though they might strike you as, I'm a little bit afraid of singing out loud. I don't really think I can draw, but I can't draw a straight line, but you could get the picture.
hmm
The more you start doing what is uncomfortable to you, do you feel that, okay, so this is what the divine wants me to say. Do you feel at the time that you were in training to yourself, with yourself, and for yourself, do you feel like a lot of those those I don't know what the divine wants me to have a word, but it's those limitations for you uh, started shedding because you just went ahead and stepped into every gift for that you had, even though you didn't do it, even though you weren't perfect at it.
I'm
Did
gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you what happened, Sandy. I started to lose these things because I was fighting against it.
mm-hmm,
And I'm just gonna be frank here. Indulging in addiction,
mm-hmm,
indulging in my thoughts.
mm-hmm.
Making myself sick.
Yes.
Again, you keep hearing this self-infliction, self-advocacy. So putting myself in situations where these awakenings would come about because I wasn't supposed to be there. So, for instance, um, I don't know. I don't even know why I brought that up. But recently, I just let go of marijuana. I'm going to be honest. For me,
Mm-hmm.
it was something that I identified as a way to consider myself meditating.
Right.
But in all reality, I was opening up another realm of awareness while I was closing off another thing that I was supposed to be paying attention to. So, for instance, smoking does what? It covers your vocal cords.
Yes.
So that moment when I am identifying and I'm partying and I'm smoking through the week and I got to get up and go to church and I'm being called for praise and worship, and my mind is stuck on where I was when I was chasing the high and when I was chasing that feel good representation versus what I was supposed to be delivering. So I missed that moment to awaken because I was masking it. And
Ah,
that's a lot of what my self-awareness has come out literally out of my pores, even becoming a young mother and things of that nature, just going through things that I was masking because I didn't know any better.
I love that you
Just
use the word masking.
because that's the God honest truth. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And it's something people don't talk about a lot. We try to
Yeah.
justify things because the majority says
Yeah.
it's good to do so.
Right.
And when you sacrifice, you gotta come back because you're giving something up, but you're not at a loss. And that's what I had to realize. Giving anything up is not a loss. You just have to know what to replace it with.
Right. To me, giving up is, well, there's two different things. There's giving up and there's surrender. And I choose to
Mm-hmm.
have I remember when I would listen to my mother and my grandmother, of course I grew up in church,
Mm-hmm.
um, when I was little, and I would hear the things, the sweet surrender, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I would, and as a kid, I'm always asking, well, what's a bitter surrender? And
Mm.
my grandmother was the one who kind of gave me her best version of it. Sweet surrender
Mm-hmm.
is when you can let go, and it just flows. It just flows like air, and you can because you're allowing it to flow. And I think I can use the word resisting now, and not resisting anything. You can smell everything. You open yourself up to all the sweetness and all the fragrance, or not sweetness, but the
Mm-hmm.
fragrance of the air as you're surrendering. And a bitter
Mm-hmm.
surrender, she was calling, is the resistance of all the sweetness. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
you know as a kid, I went, oh, okay, that sounds okay. But I didn't get the the until I had to go through something that
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know could be surrendered.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I always had to fight against it, and the more I fought against it, the more it just kept showing up.
Yes.
Maybe not in the same arena, but the
Mm-hmm.
thing was, that's when I started to become aware that I had a lot of arenas that, within me, there were so many places that
Mm-hmm.
I was dealing with, that I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that same energy could show up there. It might show up
Right.
a little differently,
Right.
right? So I love
Yes.
that you you say that because it's kind of like when you're resisting it, the more you resist it, the more it chases you,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And again, to all my people that are strong advocates, no judgment here. I just want to put that out there. It's no judgment at all. What's for you is for you. What's not is not. And as much as I wanted it to be for me, it was not.
Yeah, I had to live with that too as a, I don't know, 16, 17, who knows, maybe
Hmm.
even 15. And she'll come back. She's driving. Hold on, hold on a second. Uh, I don't want to let it ring.
I
Okay,
say
there we go.
my service is a little down.
Yeah, so yeah, anytime you just hear it, see her pause, it's because she's driving. She's going to go through a dead zone and she's going to come right back to us because that's the way that divine wants it to happen. So what I was saying was that we the sweet with when you can be in non-judgment, and I'm this question is going to be for you judging you.
Hmm.
When you made that transition from non-judgment, did you find it easier to start moving within your did you make it easy, did it make it easier for you to start seeing your gifts, your talents, your the things that the things that may have been you have may have been using all the time
Hmm.
before you started going through what might most of us call a dark night of the soul, but I think
Hmm.
it's just starting to recall who you were spiritually, physically, and mentally. Did that start when you started that non-judgment surrender for yourself? How did that work for you?
It worked very well because when you learn to stop submitting to your thoughts, things become so much easier to just dissect. Because every day you wake up, you have decisions to make. You know what I mean? And I had to be the decider for myself what I was going to let affect me. I had to learn to adopt new practices. And a big thing for me, and things that I post, even if it's not daily, affirmations, speaking life into myself. So, not being my Debbie Downer. So, yes, the judgment definitely, when I stopped letting it affect me, it helped me become stronger. It's like I was able to slap another coat of skin on me to be able to protect myself from myself. Is that crazy?
No, that you know what? I never heard it said that way, but that's a good way to say it because for me it's more everybody is not everybody. Some that I've heard they're so protective of their energy, right? And that's the message. You got to protect your energy and whatnot. Yet we're all in this. When we come in it, we come for service. Okay, we
Hmm.
come to what I learned, what I finally understand. It took me a two-layered kind of a gentle step up from, that's
Hmm.
not that far.
Hmm.
But when you're going through things, that could seem like miles and miles to step
Hmm.
down, right? So for me, when I realized, first I listened and I listened to the divine. I said, well, I know I understand that I'm an energy being. I get this. I get that this energy was so powerful that came into this physical body. I get that.
Hmm.
And I understand that that higher being had to allow itself to acclimate and assimilate and start to rest in itself in its comfortable home so that it
Hmm.
could start to become active in the life. And I
Right.
get that I while it was doing that I had to keep going as a physical body and
Hmm.
and 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 a mental mind or a conscious mind, right,
Hmm.
as best it could. So
Hmm.
when I was going through these, what most people will just use the statement, what most people call their trials and tribulations,
Hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I had to learn was the the affirmations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And first you learn them, and I what I realized is there's got to be something more. It's I'm missing them. See, I'm saying it, but nothing. It wasn't that nothing was happening. It was something was happening, but it wasn't the
Mm-hmm.
something that I wanted.
Right.
You know, so for me, when I learned to do the affirmations and embody them,
Mm-hmm.
that there was another vibrational stage to manifestation, and being a manifester of my life, not just for things, but of my life, how I wanted to interact with people.
Mm-hmm.
When in order to get there, when did you actually come into that acknowledgement that you had to do or if you are doing a two-stage, are you doing the affirmations and the embodiments? Are you going in on a daily and saying, who do I want to be right now doing this? If I
Mm-hmm.
receive this, I want to do this, or
Mm-hmm.
that kind. Are you doing, and do you do it for family
Mm-hmm.
or for community? Do you know what
Mm-hmm.
it, how how does it how does it how do you ease on down the road with that,
I
right?
gotcha.
If we gotta go to the whiz, right?
Yeah. So for me, it's never about me. I'm gonna share a little personal anecdote. So my son, he gets intensive therapy, right? And
Mhm.
his therapist asked us to draw a picture of a perfect day for you. It's so hard for me to answer direct questions. I said, a perfect day for me. Oh my God. And you know what started to come to me? Everything. Bills, work, gotta wash the clothes. I gotta cook. I have a almost 1 year old and I have an 11-year-old. That is a big age gap. The attention, and then I have my partner. So it really that was the moment that it solidified it for me that it's never about me, even when I want it to be. That like I feel like I was put here to just resonate and make people feel better, or just to help them organize, or just to help them figure it out. I was just telling one of my really good friends, when it comes to doing for Kim, I can never get it done. But if I sit with Sandee and I talk to you, I can realize and pull things out of it just through conversation and that fellowship. And
Ah, that was going to be my next question. Yeah.
that's when the gift awakens in me. It's just like I get the joy and I get the natural high of the fellowship.
Okay.
Um, but I had to get my fellowship with myself together first.
Hmm.
I could click with anybody, and that's when I started to take on energies I didn't need to take on.
Okay.
I was like festered with a lot of stuff I didn't need to, take on, and then the soul ties got attached, and that's how I wound up in those phases and stuck
Okay.
in those moments, and I felt empty sometimes. But then
How
you
did
come
you
back.
how did you work through that when you stepped into those? Because it seems to me that you're a collaborative spirit that
Hmm.
connects through wholeness to
Hmm.
to to through wholeness to get to your wholeness.
And that's not an easy thing to carry. It's not.
Right.
So I had to
So
be able to
go ahead.
I had to be able to compartmentalize. I
Okay.
had to be able to let go a little bit, because the whole goal in that moment when I am fellowshipping is what's the goal here? You know what I mean? Because it's an
Mm,
interchangeable thing, like you said. Um,
right.
so realizing and hearing and listening and stopping and focusing, that's basically what it is. It's never like a pinpointed thing. It's just always something that I'm just going through. And I hate to sound so vague, but it is. It just really is. And I'm
So
still working on
it's
it.
not really vague. It sounds like you do what many people wish they could do. You go with the
Hmm.
flow.
Yeah.
You allow it to flow, And then when it touches you, you interact, not
Hmm.
react.
Yes. And I
Okay.
reacted for a long time. And the reaction was for me, I was blaming myself because I was taking other people's concerns, spiritual sickness, um, weaknesses, and stuff. And I was making it a part of me.
Right. How did you release that? How did you it in your compartmentalization?
Hmm.
How did you when did so you realize that you were empath
Hmm.
in in your your fellowshipping,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And when you realize that, how did you service self, because
Hmm.
you'll be servicing self because you're taking
Hmm.
on other people's energies to
Hmm.
how did you service self to how did you get back to self from their
Through
energy?
prayer,
Through prayer?
through, through prayer, through
Through, okay.
through just talking to the great divine and being able to meditate. And
Hmm.
sometimes you just have to be able to be by yourself.
Okay.
And when you,
And that's why I see you in star meditations a lot when I
Mhm,
do it. That's what you and that's the whole reason I do it, is because it's not about seeing me, have it. That's why I do not do face forward with people coming to do meditation and I want them to look at me. It's no, I want them to look at the candles. I want them to look at the lights. I want them to close their eyes. It's nice that you want to make a comment, but get into you and
mhm,
go to that seat of your soul where you can
mhm,
just be there with you and the
mhm.
divine and 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 fellowship. I love that
Yes.
word, fellowship,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
So my next question is, okay, how do you because I'm glad that the divine had me listen to that. You said you had a 1 year old and
mhm.
an 11-year old.
Yes.
Okay. How do you utilize your growth and your process of growing
Mhm,
and fellowshipping
mhm,
and the whole the for me, spiritual awakening is just that you awaken to that part that you know that you don't have to use church or priest or ministers to
mhm,
as a
mhm,
go between, that you can be directly in link with the divine at all times. How do
mhm.
you teach? How do you inspire? How do you motivate? How do you teach and edify your children in the lessons that you're learning?
I leave it open.
You
My
leave it
11-year-old, I do. I so my 11-year-old is familiar with the church setting, of course, but I take something from everything.
open. Hmm.
And that is why it was so hard to stick, you know what I mean, and be, I guess you could say, faithful to Christianity. And that's not me taking back, but that's just me saying that's how like affected I am. And I see that even in him at his young age. And I give him the power to choose
Right.
because nobody taught me that. Nobody taught me how to silence my mind and just stop and think for a second to service what I needed that was best for Kimmyra. So
Exactly
my
the same thing
so
with me.
mhm. So with Jordan, my 11-year-old, I want him to feel like he has the freedom to be able to choose. That no one is going to single-handedly make him feel boxed in,
Mm-hmm.
unless of course it's the norm. Mommy says go clean your room, then it's got to be done. But when it
Right.
comes to life and choices and interactions with friends, you have the freedom and you have the power to have whatever you want,
Okay.
whatever you want, whenever you want,
Yeah.
within reason. My biggest thing, and he's behind me,
Hi,
Jordan.
Jordan. Okay. She's going to come back in a second.
They're good or bad.
Right.
It's not evil. It's not blessed. They're good or bad, and the choice is yours.
Right. Yeah. This is what the whole it's very funny, and I'll say this to anybody who follows me on Instagram or any of my platforms. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
leave it and I say take what resonates and leave what doesn't, because
Mm-hmm.
we as human beings, we're just all having an experience of life.
Mm-hmm.
There, the good or bad is the energy that we put into it.
Mm-hmm.
Our feelings, our feelings and our emotions tell us what feels good to us. What feels
Mm-hmm.
good to us might not feel good to somebody else.
Right.
And I just remember teaching my kids that everybody has personal space, a
Mm-hmm.
personal energy space, and
Mm-hmm.
as long as you aren't in in um, you know, being intrusive in other people's space, that same energy will come back to you,
Yes.
and nobody will be intrusive of your space, and you can have a like and a dislike.
Mm-hmm.
It will through other people and how they look at it, it will look
Mm-hmm.
to be right or wrong, but there's
Mm-hmm.
no right or wrong to it. It's just what
Mm-hmm.
feels good for you or what doesn't feel
Mm-hmm.
good for you.
Mm-hmm.
um, but we also live in, like, because I remember having to tell this to my teenagers when they were growing up. It's like, yeah, you have the universal laws, yes, and you have the cosmic laws, and then you have the laws of the land.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as we are living in hold on, as long as we are living in, she'll be back. She had to reset her phone. um Here she is. Hold on. There we go. There we go. I told him you'd be
Yes,
back.
Amy, can you hear me? I'm so sorry.
Oh, don't, no apologies. um so as long as we're uh some laws that they make in our reality, they're they may not feel good to you, but it gives you, there are always opportunities to do something else that'll flow. You just kind of have to look for it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be, that kind of that kind of that kind of modality. Do you Is it, here's the question. I don't know if you see it this way. Do you feel it's easy to help your children find that that balance and alignment with what they're learning from you about growth and expansion of themselves?
Not all.
About Not all the time.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Because I'd say that I was a blind parent.
You
Um,
were a blind what?
a blind parent starting out.
Uh-huh.
I was 19 when I had my son, so some of you just figured out how old I am. But children are so delicate and intricate, and I think as parents we need to. Can you take that upstairs for me, honey? Huh? Can you take that upstairs for me? Thank you. As parents, we need to let them be very fluid. And growing up in 8 different households, 3 different shelters, living on the streets and stuff, like I said, I never was able to adopt a way, a tradition.
Hmm.
So being a mother of one for so long helped me to just be open and be mindful.
Okay.
My son was diagnosed with ADHD when he was 4. And one thing I cannot stand is labels. But I've learned I was diagnosed with it.
Hmm.
And energies and transferring and generational, things that go on, and just spiritual generational things. And I'm choosing my words wisely. Um,
Well, let me say them for you. Generational curses
Thank you.
all the all the labels. Yeah, we get spiritual. A lot of us as spiritual can utilize labels as well.
Hmm.
So I definitely do under, understand that you would rather have it fluid and flowing than then I think labels, I think they help you embark on a journey, because what the label does is you can have the label, see what it looks like for you, and then you give it to the divine and say, okay, this is how I want to recreate it.
Thank you. Reprogram it. Yes.
Yes, recreate it, reprogram it, and you look at it and you go, well, I don't see my son's ADHD or as a hindrance. I don't see my son's ADHD as being limiting him or his growth and his growth in this existence. Matter of fact, I see that his brain works quite well because he's tapped in to things that are unlimited.
And
right?
he taught me that.
Right.
He taught me that.
Yeah. I mean, the same thing. My three youngest grandchildren are autistic, or they're on the spectrum. And see, what do you know what I love about the word spectrum? I love that at least the it's so broad. So it means that it gives you an infinity amount of what could be, what the possibilities are for these children that are using, come on, let's just say it, this, and this is one of their skills. We're going to talk about, spiritual gifts and spiritual skills and whatnot, is they're using that capacity of their mind power and their brain power, where it used to be 60 or 70 years ago, they told us we were only using less than a third of our brain power, right? When we were using a lot more of that. They just had different, first they didn't know what to call it, because they were used to brain power being only less than a third, or even less than that. Right. So they were basing it off of that, So we digressed, but you were talking about how so how is that? Okay. I know he's, like you said, he's double digits, and you've got this 1-year-old.
He'll be 1 October 6th. Yes.
Right. Okay. Are you already seeing his gifts and talents?
Yes.
Emerging.
They are literally night and day. So my oldest is me. When I look at him, I see me. He, a lot of people, and again, I'm speaking for myself as a single mother for such a long time. I'm not a single mother anymore. We call our first children like our struggle children. And he was. We struggled together. We learned together. We grew together. And now seeing this child in a different setting, he's so independent. Oh my goodness. Like, I barely have to, I'm gonna be honest. You read about it, he's already done it. His personality is so strong. He's so independent. I can sit down and we can eat our snacks together. He's in his playpen, like just exploring. His nickname is Baby Corporate. So I never gave that to him. That just says it in itself. I see the difference, the artistic versus the independence between the two of them. And I just wanted to touch back on the fact, we're talking about the spectrum and things of that nature, how I'm just so grateful to have walked in that path of life, because if people that have these gifts or people that have gifts like we do, they fault themselves for their mind being so overworked. And again, that's why I created Stride, to be able to kind of stop, think, and listen, and just take everything, feel it, just feel it all. Because eventually something's going to stick, something's going to feel good, and something's going to make you stop and do more research. One thing I love about your platform is you are so fluid. I will never forget, I stumbled across your Monday star readings.
Oh, Oracle and light language, light language reading. Yes.
But you did it on a Wednesday. I didn't even know you had them on Monday nights. I stumbled across you on a Wednesday night, and you did a reading for me, and we've never had an interpersonal experience. And to this day, I share that with people, and they're like, "Oh, well, can you do a reading for me?" It ain't like that. It's not like that at all.
but opening the path up to be able to have that flow for them as well. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I'll just recap.
yeah.
You and maybe you can pinpoint, because I'm really bad at paraphrasing. It's just like I have that experience and something will resonate and I will be able to terribly paraphrase after that.
Mm-hmm.
But the message for me that day was, and just think about the things that we've been talking about that I've been sharing. The man was on a journey and he was coming across familiar things and he was taking notes. Again, I know you're going to pick it up and be able to take it from me really soon.
Mm-hmm.
But you were telling me about those familiar things that I needed to kind of let go, but not let go.
Right.
And I'm sitting there and I'm frying chicken. I'm like, oh my goodness. You never know what's going to come about when you open up that path for somebody to bless you that way. And I trusted you with that energy. And
Yeah.
you gave me exactly what I needed at the time. I remigrated here from Philadelphia 3 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And when I came here, I took my independence and I combined it with somebody else's and it just fell.
Yeah.
And then I met my partner.
Mm-hmm.
And then we grew.
Uh-huh.
So it was just so amazing because the whole time I lost contact with my family, my familiar place.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they were out of sight, out of mind for a while
Mm-hmm.
until I produced a new life.
Right.
And it wasn't until that life had came about that everybody just came swarming back in. And I was upset about that. And
Yeah, it's like because they come swarming and they've got, well, you should do this and you should do that
all
and
these
here,
opinions.
right.
And I ran away to silence that.
Mm-hmm.
And it came right back. So you see the connection, right? And
Right.
it wasn't until that Wednesday night that I stumbled across that you literally solidified that for me. So thank you, one.
Oh, you're so welcome.
But
I'm just
I
the
took off
vessel.
I took off running from there
Mm-hmm.
because I had these moments where I'm so into stride and then my life pulls me out of it.
Mm-hmm.
For any reason, it might be something going on in my life that's just taking me from it, but I can't get but so far.
Yeah, and then you come back to it, but you come back to it with something more to give it, which is because the last week or so, um, I know that I had to restructure things
Mm-hmm.
because the divine I got a lot of gifts, a lot of talents that the divine said, you've been talking about these things since you were knee high to a duck, wanted to do all these little things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all coming to fruition now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, I'm looking going, well, where am I going to have this? Where am I going to have this? Hold on a second. There we go. Where am I going to have this path, or not path? Where am I going to have the time?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not. I paraphrase that because you got kids in the background. That's not. I used a couple of adjectives that probably aren't.
Oh,
right.
it's just us. We're good. It's a safe space.
Yeah. So I just told God, how am I going to do all this?
Mm-hmm.
And then and here's the thing, I got taken away with something else in my life that was going on that's prevalent to the inner me and the body,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm not going to say I'm back on track, but now I'm going to go, oh, this is what I bring back. Oh, this is what I need to add. Oh, if I add this, then yeah, this is time for this to be deleted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and it's all the gifts being given right now,
Mm-hmm.
being orchestrated and organized. Yes, I can say, yeah, it's physically me doing that. Yeah. But when I'm sitting at the seat of my soul, it's like, oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing it for the divine that is seeking to be itself through me. So why would I ever think that I would be alone in this? And it's okay. We have been taught in our oh, that's beautiful. I love how the sun just streaks all.
Thank,
um,
thank you.
so how we learn to take those things that were good for a second for higher and greater good to grow us. But in that we've been told our whole lives that we get to have somebody else tell us what we're good at doing. We get to have somebody else tell us who we are and what we can do or what we can't do or how we should do it or when we should do it. And number one, if we're not doing it that way, then they have a right to get upset with us and push into our lives and stand up and say, well, you're not listening to me. And I myself, in other parts of my life about my mom was very great. I truly believe I've said this so much that my mother was my spiritual guide in human form. She was there with me for the crucial kind of like teachings, right? When she passed, when I was in my early to mid 30s.
Okay.
Then I felt like I was on my own, and I felt like I was alone. And then I listened to more people tell me who I am and what I should do and what I could do and what I can't do and who I'll always be. And and here's the thing is, when growing up 60s, 70s, maybe even 80s, if a woman had more than three or more children, a Black woman, then each child must have a different father.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Right.
Yeah.
And I was listening to, this is also what I was listening to, that they were calling me a liar because my children came from one man and I got divorced one time and I never remarried. Right. And then the other story later on is I found out who I was, or what I prefer was I like women, plain and simple. That's it. It has nothing to do with my ex-husband and things not working out. He didn't drive me to hate men. I don't hate men, this whole kind of thing. So it was all these stories kind of like snowballing. And then I'm still a single mother. Kind of maneuvering like I have a pair of skis on and I'm maneuvering all the different right. And even though my kids were like a year apart or a year and a half apart from each other, kind of stair-stepping it, I was still looking at my children as individual. I had to go from one individual, be there in that authenticity, go to another individual and be there in that, and then pop over. And it's actually what you say to yourself is, when do I have time for me? Right. So the whole kind of the ease on down the road was it wasn't easy, kind of thing.
We identify there.
So and there's still other things in life, that in other areas of your life that you don't think you need to change. But what I love about the divine is when it's time, it's like right on time.
Right on time. I agree.
And is it easy? No, it's not. Sometimes it's going to knock you to the floor, and you're going to go, the first question it will be a selfish question. Why me? And then that's the ego's why me. And then I get to go, okay, now the real question, who do I want to be in it as I'm getting up off the floor? Right. So with that brief scenario right there, did you have a moment where you actually got to think, who am I? And then who am I really? And then did it get that integral part that it got to figuring out that You do you best as when you're collaborating with soul family, or when you're in your prayer and dance, and those kind of things. How did that Was there a moment that you remember that made you, that getting up off that floor was like, okay, you were down there, and then you went, okay, you know.
Whew. I guess it's my time to share my story. And I may get emotional behind it. Ugh.
And I'm holding space while you are. No
Yes.
worries.
In 2017, I lost my oldest biological brother to a heroin overdose. He died in June, and September 29th, funny that we're in September and it's close to his birthday, I wanted to celebrate him after class. I was attending community college and I was dating someone that was twice my age. My best friend, if she watches this, she called me a hopeless romantic. I haven't heard her call me that in a very long time, so must be doing good. But I was dealing with someone who I felt like I was leeching on to.
Mm-hmm.
And a very, very dark place. I remember you saying, you might have to re-say it, but you said something about dark energy. And this is something so vivid that it was the only thing that resonated with me through any foster home, through any abuse that I've ever been through any experience. This one right here is what was the pivot of my life.
Okay.
So I told the person I was dealing with, I need to go out. I want to celebrate my brother. Wound up going out, and the substances were just exchanging to the point that I didn't even want to indulge in drinking alcohol. He was drinking too much alcohol, point blank, period, to the point that I started consuming it for him because he was driving us home. Mm-hmm. The first time I was publicly humiliated in a big setting, had to go to the bathroom. What happens when you consume alcohol, everyone? It flows through you. So I'm like, I got to go to the bathroom. And all the Wawas in the world, I don't know why this one didn't have a public bathroom. I had to go to the bathroom. So I'm like, hey, babe, I got to go to the bathroom. He's like, oh my God, you're getting on my effing nerves. And that was the first strike to me. I'm like, what did I do? And when someone makes me feel humiliated, it is such an embarrassing experience. I come out my body 5 times. I'm uncomfortable. So that was one of those experiences. And I instantly started to get sober. So wound up going to the side of the building, and I'm gonna keep it short. Had to go to the bathroom, and I'll never forget the beaming light that I was under. I could have been on somebody's world star going to the bathroom on the side of the Wawa. Mm-hmm. He embarrassed the crap out of me. So at that point, the night was canceled. My memorial for my brother was ruined, everything. And mind you, we were on and off for 3 years. Get to the house. I can be stubborn when I don't get my way. In that era, I was just very I was to myself. I lived on my own. I paid my own bills. You're not going to tell me what to do. So we were sitting there, and I guess he thought, excuse me, guys, he thought a nightcap was going to happen. No, sir. I was just like, you're going to take me home. And he got so quiet. I don't know what happened. I thought I won the battle at that point. We had a little verbal altercation or whatever. And I thought I was going to go home. The first blow to my face shattered 3 of my teeth, knocked me to the floor. And I promise the transition that I went through at that moment was worse than a behind whooping I might have ever gotten, worse than a fight that I've ever volunteered to go against. It was the worst feeling ever. It was the worst feeling ever. And I was looking for a way out of that situation. That wasn't the first time, but it was the last.
Yes.
So the first blow shattered 3 of my teeth. I felt my teeth shatter in my mouth, like plastic. It's the worst feeling ever. And my worst fear was breaking a bone or losing my teeth. I have a nice smile, even my braces. This is my prized possession.
Right.
I'm like, oh my goodness. So then he hits me again, knocks me out. So I don't remember what happened much after that. I just remember the kick to the stomach. And then he walked out the room, and I proceeded to go turn on the iron, because I promise you, when that man came back in there, I was going to burn something on his behind. That's not what happened. Something just told me to like protect myself. And mind you, I told you I'm feisty. I'm a Scorpio.
My mother was a Scorpio.
So you already know we don't give up easily. Something told me to stop. Just stop. You cannot win. You can't win. I crawled out the room. He was chasing me. I don't remember much after that. It was a lot of verbal, a lot of like, to the point that I was like, stop, please, just don't, no more. My face was like out here, bleeding. My wig got blood in it. My shirt got blood in it. You know, he's making me clean up my blood off the floor. Clean it up, B. You know what I mean? Clean it up. I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? My son's not with me, and all I could think about was my child. Then, ironically, he housed his nieces and things of that nature, and they came out and they asked him, was he okay? Girl, you see me on the floor fighting for my life. He okay? So the first thing I could do, I knew where his metal bat was. I wanted to go in there and tear up everything in the house, but I knew that monster was a different type of monster. Like whatever beast I thought I wasn't ever going to come across, he came out that night. And the first moment I darted out the house. It was 3:00 in the morning. First car I came across, the guy sees me. It's like a horror movie. I got my heels on, my heel done broke. I'm walking up the street like, who am I going to call? My phone's shattered. I don't know what to do. I'm in a panic mode. I fell to the floor. And when I tell you the sky looked purple, I said, if you get me out of here, I will never go back. I will never go back. And the first phone call I made was my uncle came and got me, and he wanted to go back, and he wanted to Rambo his house, and you got to go to work in the morning. Take me home. And I had to deal with myself. I had to keep looking myself in the mirror, and I had to keep looking at what I tolerated.
Right.
And I was so disgusted with myself, because at that moment, every prize he ever bought, every money he ever spent, every bill he ever paid for me was not worth it.
Right. Yeah.
The fact that I had to lie to my son and tell him that I was in a car accident. And then the hospital that I went into, the check-in, my nose broken, my jaw just dislined. The security guard was my babysitter's nephew. They knew by the look of me, she wasn't in no car accident. The humility that I felt at that moment was so disgusting. I was so ashamed of myself. And it wasn't my fault. So the problem I have is letting go.
Yes, I believe that's was part of one of the reading that was done is when you asked, you said, how do I let go? And that's when the divine came in.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that moment right there, September 28th, 2016, was my true awakening to myself. That was a sacrifice that I let go of anybody ever having an ability, a saying over my life.
Right.
I let it go. And my familiar, everybody was around me, you know, but the protection I thought I would have had, I didn't have. I had me. I had me.
Yeah, you had the me. It's not just the me, the you, but it's the I and the I. Right? You know, the I, that is the wholeness. You had that all the time. Yeah. It was just becoming more and more unveiled that you could access the triunion or the multi-dimensional you. And you know what, kind of like, it took me a while to get my head around this, because you know, we're so used to thinking with our mind that these awful, horrific stories that we go through in our physical form, to even think that this would be how our higher being wants to express a energy is kind of going, why would you ever do that?
Why
But
would you allow me? Yes.
yeah, and the divine it would say, well, you wrote the story. You made, to me, the same thing. I made the choices, and now me and my ex-husband, we're good friends now. That was part of the story, but we, I mean, he never hit me. He never abused me or anything. He just walked out on me. And when he walked out, it was like a moment of feeling very insecure, feeling very naive. I got married when I was like 20 because he and I got married at like 20 years old, thinking that we knew everything about life. Oh, and and literally had, my mom going, hey, go ahead and finish another. I had just done 2 years of college. I was getting ready to transfer into a 4-year college. And my mother said, well, why don't you just go ahead and do another 2 years of college, right? And then see if you guys still want to get married. What would that what would that hurt? But oh no, I was the shit. I knew what was going on. I want to marry my high school sweetheart, have the white picket fence and 3.5 point or whatever. Yes, and I'm going to live my happily ever after. Why? Because that was what our church was telling us, and the man of the house is going to be, the head of the house. He's going to run and you're just going to live. You're going to be the happy little wife.
Submissive.
Yeah. 3 years into that stuff and see, the thing was that even though he may not have went about it the right way to leave, I had to go through, and even him, I had to go through what I had to go through to get to where I am now, to be the authentic me I am now. Doesn't mean that it made his choices right. It made his choices right for him, because because cause and effect, or otherwise karma comes back on him. But whatever I did, karma was coming back to say, hey, here I am, like I'm life again. I'm here again. What do you want to do? So the more shit that happened to me was because I was in that moment of it happening to me, instead of just realizing it's happening because of my choices. Right. Because it was hard for me to look at and go, I'm at fault because I made this choice. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. and then when you can go, I made this choice. Now I don't have to, if I take out the judgment and discern what I went through, then I can make a better decision of what I don't want to go through anymore, and follow the GPS to the next thing that is better for my highest and greatest good. And that's the hardest thing to do. I think that's the hardest gift. It was the hardest gift to give myself. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Yes, I
Yeah.
do. You said a few things that resonated with me: discernment, and being able to identify the self-inflictions that we put ourselves through. And a lot of the things, if you guys follow Stride, is I follow with self-awareness and self-accountability. You know what I mean? We like to put the blame on circumstantial situations and things of that nature. But just like you said, what did we have the power to do the whole time? To control ourselves and control the outcome of the situation. And that's what people need to take a hold of during this day and time, because the energy is so dangerous to play with, but it's always floating. And people just need to learn how to figure out themselves and grab it, because it's gifts for everybody. It's gifts for everybody. Everybody has something to offer.
Yeah.
So,
well, I love that you're bringing stride to the inner. I love to call. I don't like to separate the world and then the us. We're all wholeness. We're just
Yes.
viewing it from different different consciousnesses.
I agree.
And I love the fact that you're bringing us out to the, out to the community, out to the people who need it, out to, you're making it available. They get to decide if they need it. So basically what I'd like to do is I'd like to, end this with you giving. Is there a question? First, we'll do it because I told you this was a question. I asked a lot of your questions. You get to ask me anything. Also, then to sum everything up, to give something that you want to share with everyone. And then also please share with where they can find you, where
Yes.
you can be located, how they can become part of, participate in Stride and everything.
Yes.
So I'm ready.
I'm going to follow your order.
Okay.
So, where do you get, I guess, the fruit of your loom? Because, like I said, I admire you so much because you're so intelligent, and I see that you're always referencing something.
Oops, hold on. There we go. Sorry about that.
What made you, I guess, be so hungry for information, and how do you separate the information that you're constantly taking in and put it on your platform?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Well, I've been hungry since I was, at least the divine tells me that I've been awake and aware since I was 3. Of course, I had to go put my hands on my, really? Come on. 3? I remember 5. And literally, I do understand what the divine meant by 3, because eventually the divine shared that with me through a brief dark walk, and I was on somebody else's live on Instagram, and they asked me a question, and immediately I went into this trance, and the divine was showing me what they meant by 3 years old. Right? That's a long story in itself, but I've been asking embodying questions since about I remember my first embodying question was in the what did they call him in church, in Sunday school. And I remember having, and I think I don't know, I might have been about 6 or 7. And I remember of course they were teaching about Adam and Eve, and the creation. And they got to the point where Adam was bored, or in that terminology that they were using, and not bored, but lonely. And God put man to sleep, or Eve, Adam to sleep, took a rib from Adam and made Eve. And therefore Eve was made for man, and man had dominion over Eve and all of the, all of the creatures of the earth, right? And, I just sat there and I took it in, and I think I was, maybe I was about 7. And I took it in, and I asked the teacher, who at that time had been the pastor's wife. Okay, so I said, that's not right. That doesn't feel, no, I think exactly, I said, that doesn't feel right.
Right.
And she said, what do you mean? It's in the Bible. I said, well, that doesn't fit. They made a mistake. They had to have made a mistake. And you mean to tell me because man, all men get to have get to be head of women because one man was bored or lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I'm quite sure I was saying it in kid style, but enough to make them not I'd say some adults got nervous with me as I was coming up, because I would always go, when I had what I called a what more question,
Mm-hmm.
It didn't fit, it didn't sound right, I would always ask another question. So I was always looking. I was, and like I said, my mother allowed me, when I was asking these questions, to go out and seek the answers.
That's good.
Right. And then what she would do was she would sit with me and ask, okay, what did you learn? What did you find? How do you feel about what you found?
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't going to hinder me from, my mom and my grandmother they went to church, but they weren't like the church going women. My grandmother at the age of 60, 70 had a live-in boyfriend. And we were, I'm just telling you, my mom got divorced and she never got married again. And she had boyfriends who, not different boyfriends. She'd have one boyfriend, one monogamous relationship. But when she was done, or when they started talking marriage, or thinking that they needed, she needed them to take
lock her down. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she'd just say, "Hasta la vista, baby." That kind of thing. And then, of course, the church would be looking, and they'd say her name, and they'd shake her, But she said, "I'm just here to sing in the choir," that kind of thing, But so now I knew what I was doing. I have an older sister, older brother, younger sister, younger brother. So I'm the middle child, right? And I'm not saying this because I was the middle child. I'm saying I believe my mother met each one of her kids at exactly where they were at. She didn't have a carbon copy child. So, and I definitely wasn't a carbon copy child. I was the child that, growing up in the 60s, children should be seen and not heard. And if you could, children should not be seen at all when the adults are in the room talking.
Right.
They need to go, out into another room. But my mother was that kind of person that if I overheard something and I had a question about it, she would answer it as best she could, and then say, "Go ask so and so."
Right.
She would direct me to that. So I've just always been like that. So when I read books, or when I go to free seminars, or even seminars that I pay for, I go in going, not everything is going to fit you for your highest and greatest good, Sandra. Right. But take only that fits and works for you. And that's good enough, because then I can take that little piece and I can restructure my puzzle piece of life and make it fit. Right. So that's pretty much, what I do. And then other than that, it's kind of like when I found out that my higher being was in this for that my higher being was making choices to seek itself in this and using me, then I said, "Hey, what can I do for you?" That was me. It's like, oh, I'm not just here for my free will. I'm here for my higher being that's part of me. What can I and literally that's what I did. Is one day I was just standing in the mirror and I said, "What can I do for you?"
Right.
Show me. And be willing to ask. Here was the hard problem for me. I had to learn. It was not a learn. It was a what do you call that? I had to learn how I had to constantly keep doing it until it became a new process, right? So I would point at the mirror and I say, "What can I do for you?"
Right.
I I am that
Mm-hmm.
I am, and I point to you that, and I say, what can I do for you? And then be ready for the embodying question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because your higher being is going to ask a question back. What do you want to know?
Right.
And then I would ask a question. Show me that which I cannot see with my
Mm-hmm.
physical eyes, and I cannot hear with my physical ears.
Right.
Show me that with show me that within you, being
Mm-hmm.
my higher me. It's a question, but it's also a statement. And
Yes.
when you finally get the how the two merge together and become one,
Mm-hmm.
then it gets easier and easier, right? It's it's sometimes, I'm going to tell you, there are moments where I was bypassing being human, and
Mm-hmm.
then having feeling like there's the tap on my shoulder going, wait, you came here to experience being human.
Mm-hmm.
Back it up.
Mm-hmm.
You got to feel this. You got to
Mm-hmm.
feel that, you know, and then decide where you want to go with it,
Right.
right? And then actually finding out that all the skills that I had in the world,
Mm-hmm.
as you know, how people in the outside world
Right.
had always been my spiritual gifts.
Right.
They were now opened up
Right.
and presented, or they had, now I can see them. They had already been presented to me. Now I can see how they're flowing. I can see the patterns of where they should go and who they're going to serve
Mm-hmm.
and how they're going to serve, because all I know is all I have to do is just be an instrument and open myself.
Well, that was very, very, very fruitful. It was like I asked a question I didn't know I was going to get an answer to. No, thank you for that.
you're you're welcome. It's
Yeah.
like you thought you were going to get maybe the really short version, but I don't know another way to
Me
tell
either.
it in the short version.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yes.
So now, can you share you with us?
Okay. So, as Sandra stated, I am on Instagram platform, and my handle is Stride, which is an acronym. So it's going to be S.T.R.E underscore the number 4 underscore YOU. Um, Again, it is just something that I will pop in and out frequently. Sometimes I'm just sitting in front of the camera and I just ask the divine to give me a word. Sometimes I will open my camera up and nothing will come out. It's just not meant to happen that day.
Mm-hmm.
But when it does happen, the idea is to send out the message, and it's always, always, always a positive rebuttal. So if you go onto the page, I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm not trying to do anything specific. I'm just being me. And it is not something that I plan. It never is. It's just always, always something that resonates within me that I feel like should resonate with someone else, or that I hope would. Um, so that's me. And if I was to leave anyone with a word today, it would just be, you know, don't be your story. Just embrace your story and figure out what part of the story is meant for you to encourage someone else. I'm not telling you to forget anything that happened to you. I'm not telling you to be angry or stuck where you were. Everybody has something that's caging them in somewhere. You got to find out what it is that you need to release, and remember that someone else is waiting for you to be released so that they can be released, because it's just a cycle of empowerment, and that's all I'm here for. Although I identify and I was raised in a church, I take something from everything.
Something from everything.
Buddhism, um, Catholic, no, I'm not, let me take that back. Buddhism, Muslim, Christianity, just universal, spiritual. It's not about a religious thing for me, because it's the cultivating thing of the mind I cannot stand.
Right.
I cannot stand a cult. And I'm not saying that, again, there's no judgment anywhere, but we stay in boxes for a reason.
Yeah.
So all of us at the end of the day want to go one way, and that's to end in peace.
Yes. Yes. It's, I love how you said that. Thank you very much. Thank you very
Thank you.
It's the what I want to leave you guys with is that I believe, this is how I'll say it, that I'll put it this way. My higher being has shared with me that we have come to shift and transform. We have come to learn through our wisdom and our understanding, through our gifts, our talents, and our skills. And we've come to evolve. And once we do that, we start all the way back at one again with the shift.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to see it, I'm pointing at myself on the screen. I can see me.
Mm-hmm.
And this is me. I'm my point of reference, my point of attraction. And life moves out away from me because I give it a command to go and do and be. And once that life stops, once it stops, guess where it comes back to? Me. And I get to do it all over again. Why? Because I believe, now I'll say I believe that I am the divine creator having a moment to create me as life.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can say, I am the dreamer having a dream about me being the dreamer. Okay. So with that, I thank you for being part of this live stream. I thank you for being part of a glorious, glorious collaboration with Kimmyra and Stride for you.
Yes.
Okay. And connect with her. Connect with her on her Instagram. DM her. Don't be ashamed of where you've been and how hard it is to get to where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Let her help you. Let her hold space for you because you're the only one that can do the work. She can provide the place. She can provide the curriculum. She can provide the workshop. She can provide the I got you, but you're the only one that can do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So follow me on to the left of me. I'm pointing at my Instagram. What do you
Handle.
call that? Yeah.
Your handle.
My, yeah, my Instagram handle. I mean, they've got so many different names for it. On YouTube, they got a different name for it. But I'm pointing to that. Click it. Join me on Instagram. You want to follow me? Follow me on YouTube. You're here now? Just go ahead and follow me. If anything that we have said, follow us. Share us with others. Be a part of our family. That's how she and I got together. We're family. We're soul family forever. We really are.
Yes.
Okay. And, I just want to let you know that I am on not only just Instagram. Yes, I mentioned TikTok. I'm there a little bit. But I am also on Spotify. All right. I do a Soul Conversations with Sandra. It's a podcast. I do it live every Friday at 11:30 a.m. It repeats, or you can find it on my Instagram, but it will replay in my YouTube. It will replay on my Spotify. There is not any place that you can't find me if you need me. There is not any place that you cannot find Kimmyra if you need her. It's up to you to find out if you do need her or me. So with that, I say one love. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your weekend and be the creators that you were created to be. Thoughts are just energy. You have well over 60 million thoughts a day.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God all of them do not come to fruition all at the same time. You get to pick one, or you get to pick 10 and take them into the dressing room like you would a Macy's and try them on to see if they fit you. That's your feelings, and your emotions will tell you if it fits or not. And if it doesn't, you get to cast it into the what do we call it? The surrender of the back to the unknown, which is the unmanifested. That's only the divine.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the divine. The divine is the is and the is not. The divine is the all things and the no things. The divine is the unmanifested and the manifested. You get to say, not for me, and you get to take another one. You are the creator of you. Everything is happening for you, not to you. Once you find out that you're the creator of that, oh man, lights out to the ego. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. Yes. All right.
All righty. Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye.